friends, and welcome back to the Creative Juggle Joy podcast. Today's conversation is one I've really been looking forward to because it's a really grounded example of what it looks like to build a creative business quietly, consistently, and with intention. I'm joined by Kristen Chamberlain, the artist behind City Mouse Art. Kristen's work blends modern florals, really cool geometric design, and a thoughtful balance between creativity and technical precision. In this episode, we'll talk about her art, how City Mouse came to be, and what it looks like to grow a business alongside a full-time job. Wow. And how community and steady support can shape both your confidence and clarity over time. Kristen, I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me. It really means a lot that you asked to have me on your show.
Well, let's start with a quick introduction. I would love you to describe yourself and your creative life right now, if you could.
I'm just a small town girl who grew up surrounded by very creative women. They created everything. But I always wanted to be a big city girl. So I did that for many years. And right now my life is pretty full, but no matter what, I'm still always making time for my art.
Where you are now, where you're based, what does that look like for you outside of your art? What do you do? I just love to hear about it.
I'm based in Southern Michigan and I work full-time at a factory and I help my dad out a lot. Most evenings, I'm spending time working on my art or my website. And when I'm leading up to a launch or something like that, I'm even getting up early in the morning before I have to go to work.
You know what? That's really a familiar story with a lot of artists. I can relate 100% because that's exactly how my life went for many, many years.
Yeah.
So tell me about the name City Mouse Art. I always thought that was so cute. Where did that come from?
Again, it comes from me being a little Midwestern girl who lived in the city for a long time, a very long time. Now I'm back in rural Southern Michigan, and my art kind of reflects that contrast. It has the edge of the city, but it's softened by modern florals and nature. And when I thought of the name City Mouse Art, it just kind of hit me like a light bulb, and it perfectly captured my story.
So for anyone new to your work, Kristen, I would love you to tell all the listeners exactly how you would describe the kind of art that you create.
I don't really work in one certain style. I primarily do the flat art, floral artwork type of thing, adding texture, depth, and shading to give it more interest. But I also love working with geometric designs, which mostly are high poly and low poly styles, and they can achieve a photorealistic look.
High poly art is the one that I'm thinking about. You were explaining this, and I know that this can feel really mysterious to people. How do you explain it?
I describe it as a digital mosaic. Basically, the more polygons you use to fill the image, the smoother and more photorealistic the final image is. And when I started doing it, it was a really bad experience. I was kind of doing high poly and low poly art mixed together, but I've got it refined down to one or the other now.
That's really cool. I love the way it looks. And what do you love most about making work this way?
I feel like the contrast between the actual process and the result. The process is very meditative for me. And after working a really hard day at work, I'm coming home and working on it. It's kind of like meditation. So I can completely immerse myself and let the world just fade away. But it comes out technically precise and infinitely scalable vector image in the end that still looks like a photograph.
I really love the way they look. What kind of things inspire you the most?
Nature. Honestly, it's just nature. I've always loved flowers and things like that. So everything starts there. And I like taking something that's organic, like a flower, and using digital tools to transform it into something that's structured, clean, and very intentional.
Well, clearly you've been creative for a long time, and I know that you have had a lot of different things that you've done. When did art first really show up in your life?
Well, after I stopped chewing on the crayons, probably. But I do remember every Christmas as a child, I was excited to get a new box of crayons. But I also would sit down with my brother and we'd compete drawing cars and semi-trucks on paper. And then eventually in high school, I doodled all over my notebook covers and needed more of those. It's always just been a part of my life.
That sounds like a lot of artists that I know. Now, you've had some big things that have gone on this past year. I have been lucky enough to be on the sidelines here. What do you think made this year feel like the moment to take your art more seriously?
Just being a creative to going professional, I just knew I had to do something. So I structured my website and my domain and started thinking seriously long term about an income rather than just a landing page or something. So I wanted to build something that was sustainable so that eventually I could step away from my full time job and focus on work that I really love.
Isn't that always the nicest feeling? Just thinking
Yeah.
ahead as to
Yeah.
what this could lead to. Now, you just recently you were laid off, right, from your main job.
Yeah.
That changed things.
Oh, it made me think really hard about it. It pushed me into action. So I already had a basic website and my Dazzle shop, but suddenly I had more time and I just stopped treating the website like a placeholder and I started to improve it. That's when I started building my online store and began selling the printable card files on my website. It gives me control over the pricing, the sales, and it's a scalable business.
What was the moment where that really clicked to you? Like, when did it become more than just your hobby?
I think the layoff did a lot of the pushing for me because it was like, oh, wow, how am I going to make money? So everything aligned. I had the time, I had the motivation to secure my future by doing something that I loved. And that's when I stopped treating my art like a hobby and I started treating it like a business.
I love that. And we had that coaching session together, and I can remember you talking about it like it was so far in the future. And here you are, you're doing it now.
Less than a year.
It sure is. Tell us what
Yeah.
you're selling and where people can find your work.
Again, I sell the printable card files on my website. I also have a Zazzle store where there are products like mugs, ornaments, cards, scarves, and art prints are just a few of the things that are on there.
Yeah.
All of the links can be found on citymouseart.com. And I also have Pinterest, and I recently started a TikTok, which has been an adventure.
I bet. Now, you also sell, you mentioned Zazzle, right? And
Yeah.
Spoonflower. Are they both
Mhm.
under City Mouse Art too?
Correct. I am sorry. I did not mention that, but yes, they are.
So when you're at that point where you're having to consider what you're going to be selling, how do you decide what is going to be included in, say, that first line of cards?
Well, at first, I took your 5 cards in 5 days challenge, and I kind of just threw some cards onto Card Eye. So there were a few holiday cards for Christmas and some Valentine's. But this year, when I got serious and I launched the wet store on the website, I chose to stop experimenting and start building a catalog. So now I focus on rolling out collections intentionally by starting. This year, I started with the 10 card holiday collection, and I have many more already added on there after that because we were off for the holiday.
That's fantastic. I love hearing that because this, your dream coming true, really is what it is.
It is.
Do you have personal favorites when you do your art? What would you say is your personal favorite?
I have a lot of them. But I would definitely say the high poly, the poinsettia that I did, the rose I have. And let's not forget the peony, the pink peony. That one's really nice. And those are my biggest favorites. But I'm also falling in love with this mixed media style that I'm doing. Of the wildflower and the desert blooms are just a few that I've done so far.
Oh,
And I have a few others, but those are my biggest favorites.
the poinsettia and the rose. Oh my gosh. The rose is so gorgeous. That's the one you kind of use. Is it, or is it the one that you use for your masthead on your website?
No, the
That's
pink peony.
absolutely gorgeous. Let me ask you, you've been part of the Thrive community for a while now. You show up at the meetings. What first brought you in?
Again, I found your community through the 5 cards in 5 days challenge, which I absolutely loved. And at that time, I was kind of in a low place. I wasn't just knowing what I needed to do or anything. I just needed to connect with other artists. And quickly, it just became a great place for me to go for emotional support as well as for learning more skills and strategy. as far as my business goes.
Yeah, I get that. Sometimes we're a little isolated as artists. A lot of
Yeah.
us work from home, we're on our own. It's really nice when we can get together and just talk business. And you know what? There's so many different types of businesses that are represented with the people that come into the Thrive meetings. I'm always blown away by what ends up being discussed. So it's been a really great experience for me too.
Yeah.
When you think about it, and now that you have been showing up, what has that showing up consistently done for you?
Being there consistently is huge because you're surrounded by other artists. And for me personally, it's given me clarity and confidence. Has helped me define what my business, City Mouse Art, actually is and how to sell it and how to develop it further.
Have there been moments where things really clicked for you at the meetings, like with anything that really stood out?
Well, usually quiet on the calls. You know that. I'm over in the corner, really quiet. But I am always listening closely, and I'm probably flipping through some links that somebody mentioned or something, and usually saving it in a file on my bookmarks bar called Check It Out. And that's when the clicks for me really happen, when I go back and I look over those things and decide if they're great for my business or if they're not something that I want to pursue.
Yeah, that's a really good way to do it. I still do that, Kristen. It's something that I think we commonly do in our businesses is we constantly look for ideas that we could possibly apply to our businesses. Sometimes it doesn't make sense for our own business, but sometimes it does. So it's always nice to just kind of listen, keep your ear to the ground.
I also find that if I'm listening to something and somebody talks about it, I might not apply it the way they did, but I might find a way that I can apply it for me that works for my business. So there's always something there.
I agree. And our businesses can be so very different just because of where we live or what's happening in our lives. I care for my mother who is living with us, and she's getting close to 90. She doesn't like to be reminded, but she is. And I have a grandson that lives across the street. So we do before and after school care for him. And it's been, let's just say, interesting. There's always room for change, but there's also that feeling of continuity with the routine that we have. I find it helps me get through a lot of tough things just to have that routine in my life. What was the toughest part of this season? I know this would have been a crazy one for you with all of the stuff going on with your business, all the new stuff happening. What has been the toughest part of this season?
For me, it's still balancing the full-time job with building the business, the late nights, the long days. That's definitely been the hardest part,
Yeah.
as well as taking care of my dad, helping my dad.
Yes. Well, that's what I like to say too. My mom is very independent, very healthy, very smart, very with it. It's just different than just being with my husband alone. So it has wonderful moments. We're lucky. I consider myself really blessed that there are 4 generations of us living on this one corner here. So what would you say has surprised you the most along the way?
Well, I think I've been mostly surprised by how strong my business instincts seem to be. I always knew I had great creative instincts, but I've learned that I can also build a system, price it out, and strategize the business. It's the same discipline basically that I bring to art that I'm bringing to business.
Are there moments that you're especially proud of that you'd like to share?
Goes back to that layoff, taking that layoff as an opportunity to build the e-commerce store from the ground up and taking full control of the business model. Yeah, that's something I'm really proud of.
You've been doing a wonderful job of promoting and marketing your work too. That's something you should be really proud of. Considering the fact that you're working full time, that you're finding the time to cover all aspects of your business is very impressive.
Scheduling, getting especially videos on social media, you schedule it ahead of time.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think you've learned most about yourself through this process?
I'm learning basically the value of discipline and trusting myself. And apparently I'm a workaholic.
You must be. You must be.
I am. I am. I'm horrible.
Well, you know what? It's paying off. And that's one of the things you always have to put in front of you, when you're thinking about the fact that you spend so much time working, you also have to put that in perspective and say to yourself, I'm finally doing this thing that I've been wanting to do for such a long time.
Yeah.
Being a workaholic is not the worst thing in the world.
No,
Balance will come eventually. I know it will.
I'm looking for it.
Well, yeah, you're on the right path. All these systems that you put in place are things that will start to become faster and faster, and you're going to be able to get a lot more done in less time. That's something that will come as you go through the processes.
Mhm.
So before we wrap up, what's something that you wish more people understood about your work?
Even though my art is digital, it's fully handmade. There's no AI involved. Every piece that I create's intentional and it blends my story and my skills together.
I agree with your style, with what you do. It's very hands-on. You can't let a machine do what you do. I love that. Is there anything else that you'd love to leave listeners with today, Kristen?
All of my life, people have always asked me what my favorite color is, and I've always said white, even though they say that's not a color. They ask me what my favorite ice cream is, and it's like, it's vanilla. Why? Well, because they go with everything. You can add almost anything to vanilla ice cream, and it's awesome. Except Brussels sprouts.
Yeah.
Now that's where we need to draw a line.
Sure. Oh my gosh. Kristen, thank you so much for sharing your story with me today. Your journey is such a clear reminder to creative businesses, to everybody out there who's trying to build a creative business. Businesses like this are built one steady decision at a time.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that you joined us. I'm so grateful that you shared all of this. I'm so proud of what you've done since the time we first met. You have just outdone yourself. It's been an amazing thing to watch.
A lot of that's thanks to you. I've learned a lot from you.
Oh, you're so welcome. I love having people like you around me because it makes me feel good about myself. And to everyone listening, keep creating, keep juggling, and most importantly, keep finding joy in the process.